A very warm welcome from our side here from Schlotau and Bauer to a new webcast. We are really happy that you joined us today.
So basically, the idea of Click Along is to go through basic examples which we have in Lisa, and I will show you the basic and advanced functionalities of Lisa. People who have not seen Lisa ever before, this is what the interface of Lisa looks like. So what is Lisa? Lisa is a traffic engineer's software package or workstation, which is designed to help you to develop signal timing plans. So that is develop and configure all the information needed to a traffic engineer for a traffic light intersection. It was originally created, developed for a German market, so it's a bit centered around the world of OSIT, but it's not limited to that. And we will see this we see that later. Lisa also automatically calculates the signal timing plan and does the calculation for intergreen time. So we just have to provide the geometry, which we will see, and it does all the automatic calculation of intergreen time for us, and which will help you to develop the traffic actuated control plans. And it just gets you to the stage where you just need to upload the plans to a compatible controller, traffic controller. How I put Lisa is that Lisa has three pillars: creation, evaluation of signal timing plan, and then testing and development of traffic actuated control. The steps we follow in Lisa are: you basically create intersection. By creating, I mean you put all the basic geometric data on the site plan of intersection. Then you do calculation for safety, which is more important for the traffic engineers, which is the safety is conflict matrix, the intergreen time. And then you do the calculation for capacity, for which we need the flow. And the next step is traffic actuated control. Since last year, since Lisa 8, we have divided Lisa packages into small, medium, and Excel. And while doing the training, I will show you what are included in the packages. So basically, for an idea, small package is for fixed signal timing plan for an intersection. In medium, you also can do coordination of various intersections. And then in Excel, you have traffic actuated control, where you can use logics for traffic actuated control. Okay, now we go in. This was the theory part, and now we go inside Lisa and see what the GUI composed of, and go step further to create a traffic signal timing plan. We have various parts in Lisa. So what you see right now is called project management. I will just give you the headings, high-level headings, and then we go detail into each of these headings. The project management is this blue ribbon, what you see. I go back here, and this is the main interface of Lisa. So you have configuration, where you will put all the hardwares on street, signal groups, the detectors, the intersection drawing, and the geometry, basically. Then the next part you see is planning, where you do all the calculations, the definitions of security measures, you define stages or phases, however it is called in your country. Then you evaluate these signal timing plans, and then you can also start with the Excel part, which is your logics, creating your traffic actuated plan. And we also have something called test site, and the test site provides you basic simulation to check your logic. If your logic, it's like graphical visual help to debug your logic also. Then once you are done with configuration and planning, you can upload your plan directly to the variety of manufacturers. These variety of manufacturers you can directly upload to control, which you developed and tested in Lisa. And it doesn't need any fundamental alterations. Yeah, these are the basic things. I will skip these. This is not for, this is very specific. And support, something important to know, that once you have Lisa, our team is always on the weekdays there to support you with important questions, or if you have any problems while working on Lisa, you can also share your screen via team viewer, what you see here. And yeah, this is the information. Normally when you have problem with Lisa update, we ask for your dongle number, and this you find here. So these 4-digit dongle number is, you would know if you have some problem with your version, and you know where to find your dongle number. This is the version of Lisa which we'll be working on. The one current in market right now is 8.0.3. And this is the version, in-house version, which we'll be releasing soon. If you have any question, you can always send us email on service@Schlotower, or go to our LinkedIn Lisa forum, where we have Lisa-specific questions and answers. So let's get started with the project management. This part of Lisa is called project management. This is used, as the name says, you can manage your projects here. You can manage not only the intersection, but also the coordinations that have been created using Lisa. You can create, copy, paste, import, export intersections and coordinations. So we can start by creating an intersection by clicking here. Once you click on plus, it has 3 attributes where you provide the location, so the name of the city, then you provide the name of the intersections, and then you are working on various variants, which you provide here. I would not create anything new, just to show you. So I click on plus, and then I give in these values needed. And as we saw, there were 3 identifiers in this case: the name of the city, the name of the intersection, and the various variants. By giving all these, you create an intersection. For us, it is already created, and this is empty. As I double click on it, it is selected here in the selection list. It is important that you double click here and you see a green arrow, and then it is there in intersection in the selection list. Once you have it here, we close and go, and you see last time they were not highlighted when I was showing you this window, but now you can select all of these icons. I go back to project management by clicking here, and to show you a bit more information about the intersection, here you see the name of intersection and the town which we gave in. And what important is the guideline, which will be used for the evaluation and for all the traffic signal rules provided for your intergreen time or further calculations. These are the guidelines which we have currently in Lisa. So this is the German guideline, which we'll be using, RILSA. But as you see, we have been extending to Netherlands, to Hungary, to Israel. So we have these further guidelines. The latest work which we're working on is Paris, and soon we'll have Paris guideline here. So as I said, this list gets longer and longer as we go to the new market. And these values will be used for the evaluation. These are further information which are more specific to your intersection, and we will start with our example 0. So as I said, you click on this 0 example, and here it is in the selection list. I hope it is in English for everyone. If it is not in English, or if you want in your preferred language, there are many language options here. In my version right now, I have, I think, 3 options, German, English, and Spanish. So you can change it here, save and close by clicking on this option on the top left, and this window opens. I click on the basic data, and an empty window should appear, which looks something like this. Here, we will provide all the geometric data needed for our calculation. To start with this, we would click, I would need us. So basically you need 2 input for a signal timing plan creation. You need a site plan where you will trace the geometry and put your Lisa elements on that. And the second you need is a peak hour flow for the evaluation. So my first input, I will click here on the load site plan. And once I click here, I have to import my layout, my site plan. And you see here, these are various formats supported by Lisa. So you can have PDF file, image file, or all these formats. I will import this intersection, and I click on open. And yes, I would have to change my scale. I click OK. And then Lisa asks me if I would like to enter the scale now. So we will enter the scale to change the pixel into meter. I say yes, and my cursor automatically changes to this scale cursor. Here, I luckily have the scale where I know how much pixels is the conversion of pixels to meter. So I will just click here on this, and then I drag it till here and click here. And then it will ask if the length is okay. This is now 20 meter. You can always click here and check any distance if it's okay. If you don't have this scale presented in your site plan, then you can use, for example, a traffic lane or something which from Google Earth, some distance which just to provide the right scale to your intersection. Okay, once you have provided the scale, the next step is we have to trace this geometry and provide the lanes and the connections, the signal groups, the detectors, everything you see on the site plan. We would have to provide it. So how we start, these are the icons, what you see, which are all the elements that will be used to provide them here. I can start with this axis. I click here, then I click here and keep the cursor dragging in the opposite direction. And you see my cursor automatically changes from leg to lane. And then I simply click 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So on the right side, it has given me approach lanes, and on the left side, it has given me departure lanes. Of course, in the settings, you can change it, but for Germany, we keep it like this. And you have to make sure that the stop line is matching the stop line on the site plan, because of course it is important for the intergreen time calculation. Once I have created this, I will go to this. I will repeat the same steps. I click here, I click on here and drag it till outside. I leave it here and then simply click 1, 2, 3. So here, try to change it a bit. Once you have done this much, I will quickly do the other ones. Here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And similarly, I click here, go outside, and do 1, 2, 3. And then important to change back to this cursor so I can move my lanes if I have to. So once I have done this, I will show you something. I can click on save. It's good to keep clicking on save. Once you have done this, you see these icons on the corner. These are basically the window layouts. What interesting is this icon, what you see on the corner, which is called intersection diagram. I click here and this window appears. So it shows me all the time how much steps I have covered in Lisa and gives a rough diagram for my elements. So these are the lanes which I have provided, and this intersection will keep on improving with the more elements I provide in the site plan. Then once we have provided the lanes, the second step would be providing our travel path. So travel path is basically you tell the flow of vehicle. I click here, and as you see in the arrow that this vehicle is going from arm 1 to arm 3, so straight. Also, this particular lane is also turning right. So I just have to click here, then click here, and similarly go back again here, click here, and then click here. So, and I can also click here and try to move it so it follows the radius inside. I will show you a couple of more. I click this again. It is just the straight traffic. So I click here and I click here. I want to make it a bit straight, so I calculate the correct intergreen time. I double click on this, and then so what's happening here is that this one is blocking this travel path. What I can do is click here and right click and say hide travel path. So I can just work on this one. And now since I have this, I double click, I get this square. You see, I click again, hit the square, and I have to hold this square and drag it until I feel it's okay, and I click it here. And then I click on save. You can right click and say again, show all travel paths. So it's gonna show us all the travel paths which we hit. And now if I click save and I click here in the intersection diagram, I must see these arrows because it's depending on the travel path which we have provided. So, similarly, I will continue this for this one. It goes here. I go again here. This goes straight. And then this goes to right. And again, I will make it also here because it's good to be safer for intergreen time calculation, because you cannot promise that the person will turn here, it might turn there. All right, I click on save, and this process I can continue for all 4 sites. I click on my intersection diagram and it tells me the steps which I have completed. It is also a good way to remind us if we are forgetting something, you know. For example, if I've completed this, I could have seen, oh yeah, an arrow is missing here, so I have to provide travel path for this particular lane. Okay, once we have provided the lanes, the next step is to provide the crossings for pedestrians. I will right click and hide all travel paths. And then this you see here, these 3 particular part on the site plan are the crossings for pedestrians. So for that, we click here and I simply have to click and drag it along to the ends. I can zoom in by simply scrolling my cursor mouse, and then I click on this and drag the corners to match the site plan. So here, then come back here and click here. I mean, as clean as you want, you can make it. This is also important for the intergreen time. In different countries, there are different rules for intergreen time. In few countries, you take the corners, the edges, the boundaries of the crossing for intergreen time calculation. In few countries, you take the center point. There's no right or wrong way. It varies from countries to countries, or even cities to cities. I'll make one more crossing, and I will drag it from here to here. And then click on this and try to drag it. So, and save it. And once I click here, then you should see that I have provided 2 more crossings in this case. I save it. And this is the next step. I to show all travel paths, and this is what I have created until now. Once we have added these pedestrians and bicycle crossings, we can enter the signal groups. So for that, we have to click on particular lane. One step which I skipped is you can also provide the mode traveling on particular lane. For example, there could be a bicycle lane or a bus lane or a tram line. So you can simply click on that particular travel path. Here, for example, just let's assume that this is just a bike path. What I will do, instead of vehicle, here I click on bicycle. And then you see it turns red. And now when I save and open this one here, it will show me as a bike path here. Similarly, if I have to change to bus lane, I can just click on bus and make it. It depends if it is ROBW, right of way. If it is shared between bus and vehicle, or if it is just a bus lane. These are provides different colors for different modes, just for your easier visualization. And when it is shared by vehicle and bus, you can see a blue line in the corner. And similarly, if this one is by bike and vehicle, you will see a red line in the corner. I keep it back to vehicles. And this is how you change the mode. Now I go for applying the signal groups. I will hide again all the travel paths. And then I click here. As you see here, we have some signal groups and some priority lines. Let's first define the signal group, and then we will define these priorities for each direction. Here you have the V1A, which is for vehicle. All of these are for vehicles, where you see V, and the one you see P is for pedestrians, and A is acoustic for visually impaired people. So when I click here and I go to signal groups, I actually have created before, but if I have to create V1, I will just click plus on this particular lane. I will write V1. I'm not writing V1 because it already exists. I just write example, and then you can define the type of signal group it is. And there are various types, and these types also depends on the country and the city which you are working in. So in Germany, we have normal vehicle, which is red, yellow, green. And then you have certain different other types. We keep it vehicle, and then we click OK, then it will be saved here. If they're already saved, I will just assign this is V1, this is also V1, and this here is V1L. And when I save it, and when I click here, you should see in here, the signal groups have been assigned to all the lanes, to all the directions. It is more for directions. And if I click here on the pedestrians crossing and click on signal group, then you see that automatically Lisa understands that this is a type pedestrians because we clicked on crossing. I give here, for example, pedestrian, whatever the name is, in this case, it is P2, which is already defined, so I will not give it again. I just write pedestrian 2. And yeah, if I click OK, this shall have pedestrians 2. I click OK, they should have pedestrian 2 here. So this is pedestrians 2, which I applied here. I will delete it since it was just for, that's how you delete it. You just select it and you cross here. We can also define acoustic, as you see here. If I click on the crossing and I click on again on plus, I write acoustic 2. And since it's pedestrians, here we have to change the type and make it acoustic signal. It's this one. And I will just simply assign, if I click on here, P2 and A2 for the signal group. I do save. And then when I look in the intersection diagram by clicking here, I should have P2 and A2 here. Similarly, we have the flashing type, and we can click here and define the flashing type. Flashing type is not a safety signal group, but it is rather a warning signal group, because in Germany, you can have a turning vehicle and pedestrians crossing having green at the same time. So you just define, you give a flashing light to the cars, telling them to be careful before crossing. All right, this is the next step. Once we have done the signal groups, the next step is to define detectors. And for that, it's, I think you might have guessed it. You click here, then in detectors, you can click plus here, or if you have Lisa 8 or the successive versions, you have a graphical detector. So once you click on this, you can assign the detector just by clicking on the lane. I click here, and it automatically kinds of guesses the length. I can write the name. For example, I just write, it is D1, but since D1 exists, I kind of write test. Distance, we can always move. This is the length of detector, and it says to which signal group this detector is allocated. And these are the various functions of detectors which will be used in the traffic actuated control. I do OK, and then this test detector, as you can see, I can move it and the distance will change accordingly, as you can see here. And if I save it, I can see my detector test in the intersection diagram. Okay, I will click here and delete this, but rather I will provide this D1 here at 34.82 instance, and I click on save. Just one step is missing here. I need to provide the right of way for the directions. For example, if traffic lights are not working, or if it is, the controller is switched off in the night, then the traveler looks at this priority, and this can be done by simply clicking here. And then you can provide right of way. And this in Germany means that it is the main street, this traffic sign. Similarly, I click here, I click on the right of way, and then I say main street. On the minor direction, I click on 2, and this sign here, what you see, is for yield. Similarly, 4, I click on yield and save. And now when I click on this, I see these 4 signs for my access. Okay, I think if they want to have a pocket lane, basically you click on this 3 lane and you want it to originate from 2. Then you click on the source lane here. And once you click on the source lane, you make the source lane is 2. And then you give the distance. For example, you say this is a pocket lane for 4 vehicles, and each vehicle is 6 meters, so you can provide 24 meters here. And then I do save. This is now a pocket lane So the lane number 3 is emerging from lane number 2. That's how you provide it in Lisa. If you want to check this, you can save it. I already saved it. And then you can check in the intersection diagram, and then it should appear something like this. So this is originating from lane number 2 coming to 3. Then I can give a summary. What I did, I imported a site plan by clicking here. Then I provided a scale. Once I provided the scale, I started from going from top to down. I start by providing access by clicking here. Once I have to drag it from outside to inside, and then my cursor changes into the travel path, new lane, and I provide lane, clicking on the lanes on the site plan. Similarly, I will continue the process for all the 4 directions. Once I have finished them, I continue to provide the travel paths, which is the connection between all the different directions as per the arrows. Once I have provided the travel paths, I can provide the travel mode by clicking on the travel path and simply selecting on the left side what kind of mode is allowed. Once I have provided the travel modes, I can also provide the crossings if there are some crossings in our intersections. After providing the crossings, the next step is to provide the signal groups by simply clicking on the lane or on the crossing, depends, and providing the correct signal type to your signal group. Then if you have a traffic actuated control, then you click on the particular lane where you have detector, and you can provide detector by, if you have Lisa 8 or above, by clicking on the graphical detector, or if you have Lisa 7 or below, by this particular table. We also provided the right of way by clicking on the leg and giving it here on the window. Then we also saw how to provide a pocket lane by clicking here and then providing a source lane to it. Once we have provided it for all the directions, we will get conflicts, what you see as these points. And these are used in calculation of the intergreen time. We will see this further. I will now close this. It will ask, yeah, I want to save it. I will save it for now. Go here. And I already have another version made of this with all the basic data given in. So I will stop example 0. I can just double click on this and include example 1. So if you see in the public comment, it says the basic data is covered in this variant. And here you see, if we had time, this is how our intersection would look like in the end. If I click here now on the intersection diagram, this is how it is. You have pocket lanes, you have detectors, you have bicycle signal groups, directions, the crossings, the name of the road, the north arrow, the name of the intersection, everything. This is well done example with time, but following all the steps what I showed. Of course, the names and everything, you give them here on the side. Once we have provided all the information, what is needed in the geometry, we will go to our another next module, which is signal group, because I don't want to change anything. And then I go from basic data to signal groups, the next module, which we have to work on. Under the signal group symbol, we will see all the signal groups which we define in basic data. So you have a minimum green time for all the signal group. In Germany, it could vary for different countries. Either you have 10 seconds, 6 seconds, 8 seconds. And since it's international click along, we keep it for 6 seconds. In these columns, you define the green and red times, which will be monitored by the operation system of the control, and are monitored in Lisa in the signal timing plan module, stage transition module, and test site. Here, of course, you give the values which are used in your city. You have sometimes you have red and yellow for 1 second, or you have red and yellow for 2 seconds, or you don't have at all red and yellow before the green light starts. Green light could be the caution could be for 3 seconds, could be for 5 seconds. You provide them here. For in this case, in Germany, it could be 2 and 1 seconds. In the settings, something is what you can check. You can see what all columns you want to see, what all columns you want to hide. This could be done in the settings. Here you provide an off state when the controller is off, which direction gets which is the state green. It's normally the main direction. You provide that when the controller is off, then the main direction is straight green. And the minor direction is getting yellow flashing because they have to be careful. This you can change. You can see if there are some changes which you want to make, which you didn't see in your basic data. You skip, you can check the minimum green time. And also more importantly, you can check the symbols for your signal groups which you have defined. Because now it is correct, but basically you have to manually change the symbol for flashing. It is by default define something different. So you can define the signal direction. This is more important also for in the stage group where you provide different stages for a group of signal groups. That's where it comes in handy, and also for the documentation purpose. Once you are okay with the signal groups module, you simply close it. And then we go into basically, you don't need the facilities part. This is just a documentation purpose. You are defining poles, the cantilevers, the view, what you will see on the signal head in this module. It is just documentation purpose. I can very quickly show you what is in there. For example, if you remember our basic data, we had these, I hide all travel paths. We had defined V1 as signal group, but here you see you have V1A, V1V, V1LA, and V1LB. So what is the difference? These V1A, V1A, V1B are signal head. So these are just two different hardwares on the road where you see the same signal group. So this is what you define in this module. You define this V1 as constituting of two signal heads, V1A and V1B. And then you define how many number of phases you have. For example, for pedestrian, you just have red and green mostly. For vehicles, you have red, yellow, green. So you have 3 phases. Something more interesting in this module, as I said, it's just for documentation. You can also define the indication, what you will have on your signal head. It is different. These are different indications. And not only what you see in Germany, you can also see for different countries. For example, if somebody is here from Poland, you have some special signal head for Poland, and you can choose from these. You can simply right-click here and choose your selected country for special signal head. We won't go in detail in this module because, as I said, it's only for documentation purpose. And we continue going to next module, which is under conflicts. So once we are defining a fixed signal timing plan, what all we need is what all we already did, basic data, where you define the geometry. Then you check your signal groups. You see if everything is fine. The minimum green time, red time is correct. If all the major direction, minor direction, signal groups are allocated correctly for when the controller is off, and if the symbols are correctly aligned. This is the module you check, and then you directly go to planning, because all the things you see here, detectors, public transport, these are more for the traffic actuated control, where your traffic signal is of course not fixed, but it changes as per demand, or as per if there's a priority for public transport, or if there is a demand from pedestrians. So this is more where we use these two modules. Since our first focus is LISA S, I continue with a fixed signal timing plan. So one step which I skip right now is giving in the traffic flow, which is of course needed to evaluate your signal timing plan. I mean, historically we go from left to right, but I'm skipping evaluation right now. I'm going directly to the time parameters and setting intergreen time, just to show that we can actually calculate a signal timing plan based on safety basis. We don't need flow to calculate our signal timing plan. Of course, it will create some absurd signal timing plan, which will have LOS F, level of service F, but still we will then give evaluation parameter later, and we see how it changes our signal timing plan. I go now to conflict matrix here, which you see is empty. What we can do is I close here, I go to basic data. Since we have already created these conflicts, I go to menu, I click on conflicts, and I click conflicts here, and I do OK. And Lisa, based on these intersections between these travel paths, Lisa calculate all the conflicts for us. And now if I go back to the conflict matrix, when I go to conflicts here, I see that Lisa has created all the conflicts for me. But since all of them are not actually conflicts for me, depending on what are the rules which I follow, as a traffic engineer, it's our job to check this manually and remove the conflicts which are not conflicts for us, or add extra conflicts if that's the case. This is one of the most important jobs as a traffic engineer. And now this brings me back to the topic of this arrow, which I said I will mention afterwards. So I open basic data. Now I use this window, which is open the windows next to each other so I can check my conflicts. I will make it small and I make it bigger so I can check my conflicts next side to each other. And let's do one row, and then just to explain the concept, I will hide all travel paths. And what this arrow means, this is in Germany, because in Germany, you can have a turning traffic and also a straight traffic for opposite directions and have green at the same time. It's just that you have a rule that the turning traffic waits for the straight traffic, or depending on the rules which you have. But here, since we have an arrow, it means that it is something called it's restricted turn. So when this gets an arrow, no pedestrian can move at the same time with this. For example, if this is turning to the right, this pedestrian can also have green at the same time. But this restricted turning means that they cannot have green at the same time. None of the other conflicting flow can have green at the same time. So this means we have to change our conflict matrix a bit, and we can see here, if I go here to V1, V1 is this one, or maybe I can just open this here. It's easy. So let's see at V1, and we see what are the conflict entering flows for V1. V1 goes right and straight. So of course, V2 is a conflicting motion. V3 is not a conflicting motion since these two are V3 and they can go at the same time as V1. V3L is a conflicting motion for V1 because it's going straight and it is turning here. And this has an arrow next to it. V4 is a conflicting motion. Then we don't have these three conflicts, which is correct. Then P3 is, of course, conflicting. Flashing is not a conflict since we don't have intergreen time calculation for this, and it's just a safety signal group, as I said. And then we look at P4, and P4 is also not a conflict since this doesn't have an arrow and this pedestrians and traffic can go at the same time. So I will remove these three conflict. And similarly, we will go through all the rows and clear the conflicts which we don't think are the conflicts. We can do one more for V1L. And if you remember, it was restricted turning. So it should not have any of the conflicting motions, turning motions on at the same time. And that's why I check for V1L. V2 is a conflict, is V3 is a conflict. V3L is not a conflict because they are not conflicting, even though they can go at the same time. V4, yes, V2 and FL2 is not a conflict. So similarly, we will do it for the entire matrix. And you notice something, if I remove here or add here, it automatically reflects to FL2A V1L here because they are symmetric. Okay, I close this. I close this and make it maximum. So once I have completed my conflict matrix, I will save it and go to intergreen time matrix calculation. It has already been completed in the next version, which I have here in 3. But let's continue with intergreen time before I go to the next variant. Once we have defined the conflicts, I click on the intergreen time calculation. And this is what it looks like. It's empty. People who are new to intergreen time calculation, if I have to define in one line, it's one of the most basic safety rule for calculation of signal timing plan. It is a time needed between end of signal group's green time and the start of conflicting signal group green time. And we calculate intergreen time based on the input which we have provided until now. As we provided the basic data, we saw there were conflicts, and then we provided these conflicts in the conflict matrix, and that is used as the basis of calculating our intergreen time. In LISA, distinction in the calculation of intergreen time is made between the signal group conflicts. I can show you what I mean by this. This is a bit theory before I show you the bit of click along. You will have conflict between signal groups, for example, V1 and V4. This is a signal group conflict. Then you have a stream conflict, which is maybe first I calculate it and then we show it. So to calculate, this is how we saw, and I just have to click calculate here. And then I go back to the theory, what I meant. And once I did start, based on the geometry, what LISA we have provided, the intergreen time has been calculated between two signal groups. So going back to the point which I was mentioning, that you calculate signal groups not only between the two conflicting signal groups, but also based on the stream, because two signal groups can have different directions, based on the substream, which is the mode you have, because if you have bus and car and bus and bicycle, of course, there will be a difference in the speed and you will have a different intergreen time calculation. Based on these, all the factors and various others settings which you provide inside, your intergreen time is calculated. Okay, so I click here on settings. It's already open. So that's how it is. Here you provide, as you see, there are various options. For the time calculation, you can say, in my city, the intergreen time is always greater than yellow time. So if you end up calculating intergreen time of, I don't know, 3 and your yellow time is 4, then automatically LISA will make it 4 seconds. So this is one example. Then you have example with the clearing time, entering time, how it should be. Then you have, if you want to take bicycle into account or not. You don't want to take bicycle into account when you have pedestrians conflicting with bicycle, or if you want to take them into account. Similarly, for distance, how you want to round up the entering distance and the clearing distance. It could vary from, as I said, for each case to case. Then you have other settings for entering distance of vehicles when you need it and when you don't. Similarly for the speed, for the acceleration, the time of crossings, all these values are provided here. Then for public transport, you have various settings which are given in here. And similarly for pedestrians and for bicycles, you provide values in here. So this is where you can tweak with these values to get your intergreen time for your particular city. And it could happen, for example, my recent project with Paris, they have a very special case, and for them, they calculate clearing intergreen time in some other case which was not in LISA. So for them, we included one more time calculation, which will be included here. So as I said, this keeps on increasing this list, and there might be that your case is not here, or most probably it is here, and this could be changed using the settings here. Once we have provided in the settings for the intergreen time, there's a certain formula which intergreen time calculation uses, which is basically clearing minus entering time. And in clearing time, we use the clearing distance, which has been calculated from the basic data. I can open basic data here, side by side, make them side by side. And what I do if I want to check where this conflict is, I click here, or where the conflict is. It will show me that we are talking about this conflict right now. This is very helpful because I know people still, traffic engineer, use their threads before to check if this clearing distance is accurate. So you can always check if this is fine, click on the particular conflict to see which is the conflict which is highlighted right now and if the distance is correct. Once you have this distance correct, 26 meter, which has been calculated from here, You have length of vehicle. Of course, you can change it. For example, it's 6, as we saw in the settings, defined by default. You imagine if you have here a truck facility and your length, it's 12 meter. So you can change this length here and you can recalculate the intergreen time. So length of vehicles is also used in clearing time, which you provide here. Using these distance and the crossing time, you get the value of 7.6 here. I will close it for now. Make it bigger. And I get a value of 7.6 seconds. Then you have an entering time based on the distance which we have provided, calculating the distance from the basic data, 29 meters, and the value which we have provided in the settings here. You get a value of 2.6 seconds, and Lisa tries to then subtract these two values and get an answer of 5 seconds for us. It does it for all the possible cases for V1 and V2, which is 553.7, and then uses the maximum value. Of course, I mean, for safety, it won't take 4 seconds if there is intergreen of 5 seconds. It takes the maximum value for us. And that's how, similarly, as you see in this case, you have 6.8, 7.9, 9.7, and it takes the value of 9.7 and calculates 10 seconds for us. What is more recommended in this case, when you have a border value to add, you can add on your own 1 second here, and then you get a value of 6 seconds because it calculated exactly in order. You can add 1 more second just to be safe, and it is calculated as 6 seconds now. Once you do this change, Lisa marks it protection, which means that this value has been changed. And if you do any changes in this table or in the basic data and you recalculate this intergreen time, this value will remain intact because it's blue and protected. And this is the manual change done by us. Once you are fine, I will just undo this value for now. Once you have calculated the values and you have recheck them, you can sign it, and then since it's a security module, the other planner will check this, and then this module needs 2 signatures. Both the traffic engineers sign it, and you can then fill your intergreen time matrix. You click here. It is in German right now, Zwischenzeit matrix. I can write IGM, intergreen matrix. And since it already exists, it is asking me if it should override the existing matrix. I said, okay. And these values would then be filled in the next module of intergreen time, as you see here. So these are the values which were calculated in the last step. And once you are fine with this intergreen time module, of course, you can, as you see here, I can add more intergreen time matrix. Yes, it asks, I copied this, and if I change a value here, it changes the color. It says that this value which you have is more than the default intergreen time matrix, and this is less. So it's somehow giving a warning sign by changing the color. Once you are fine with the intergreen time matrix, we go to the next step, and then we can directly go to create our signal timing plans. So if I do calculate STP, since we have not given a flow, we can just calculate our signal timing plans based on minimum green time, which we have provided. And we can provide a cycle time if I want. It's normally for coordination important, not for a single intersection, but okay. It asks which intergreen time matrix you want to use. Let's keep the default one. And it can already start. I click next, and it has created a signal timing plan for us. Here, we don't know what is the level of service because we don't have any flow, but it has already created some signal timing plan based on the input we have given. If I increase the signal timing plan green time, it will show this red line, which means that I'm violating the intergreen time between these two signal group. We will come to this later on. I've just wanted to show you. I will go back now and go to configuration, evaluation parameter, and then try to revise what we have done. What I did, I went to the configuration and checked the evaluation parameters. Here we add traffic flow. So as soon I create here, I write, for example, I will just give a random value I don't want to enter all the values. I give constant value 100. It has created for all direction a traffic flow of 100 vehicles. I can, of course, change it here, whatever I want. And then this will change accordingly. And if I have different vehicles distribution, I can change for each direction here. For example, I click here and I know that there are from 1 to 3, there are 20 bikes. It's important that we have defined bike lane in the basic data. If not, it will give me an error. And now once I click here, I can provide the values in here. And since there are 2 lanes that this traffic is bifurcating into, I can provide the number of vehicles for each lane. It automatically makes it 50%, half, like distribute into half and half. But if we know that is not the case, we can change it also. This is all needed for the evaluation for the German guideline, what we are using. And you can also provide since we provided the crossing, the number of pedestrians crossing, provide them here. In the parameters, you get the opportunity to recheck again the values which you have given for each lane. You can simply click here and check these values provided. You can change the lane width. You can see if in this case, the length is different, because all these values will be used by our evaluation. As I said, in this case, it's HPS 2015. This is a German guideline. And yeah, this is very quick to provide flow. Of course, you should have this value. And what important is that what makes a bigger impact on the evaluation is if you have a heavy good vehicle. If you know the percentage for separately for trucks, tractor, tram, you can provide them here. And if not, you can just click here and provide that approximately 20% is heavy good vehicle. Then this goes gray, and then Lisa takes this into account. Once we have provided this value, I will not save it for now. I think I'll check it later. And I go to the next version where the evaluation data has been provided. I open this, I click here, and this is how it normally looks like. You have morning flow from 7 to 8, you have provided these values. It's same principle which I showed you, just the values are different here and it's more properly defined. Once you have defined it, the evaluation parameter, we can go next. So the normal process is you do basic data, you define evaluation parameter, you do signal groups. We are talking about fixed time. Then you go in the conflicts, intergreen time calculation, and then you go for signal timing plan. What you do in stages here, you kind of define what all signal groups can have green at the same time without having conflict. What I will do right now is delete these stages so we can create new. And I will click on plus, 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 stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. You can have 2 stages, 4 stages, how depends. There's no right or wrong in this case, just optimizing the capacity and waiting time. Here, I want to have this, I open my intersection diagram and I want to have my main direction in one stage. So I want to have my V1, I right click here. Once I right click here, you see that the conflicting signal groups are already red crossed. And I click on V3 here. I want these to be on the stage 1. And along with this, I can also have both the minor direction pedestrians crossing at the same time. So which is P4, A4, FL4, and P2, A2, FL2. So once I do this, you see I have my stage ready with these. And in the signal group module, I told you that the symbols will play important role in the stage because it kinds of make it clear. And for grouping and for documentation, it's easier to have the nice and correct symbol. Similarly, I want my stage 2 just to be these 2 turners, which is V1L and V3L. That's all, which is turning to the left, turning to the left. And for the third stage, I want my minor directions, which was V4 and V2, I put it here, V2 and V4. And along with this, I can give this pedestrians. So that's how you define stage. Of course, you have more settings. You can make it bigger, smaller. You can play with the form. You can make it the circle bigger or smaller. In some countries, you don't have circle. You have instead the square. You can make it square, square. And yeah, this is the basic idea of providing stages. And for traffic actuated, we would need something called stage transitions, because what traffic actuated actually do is the control itself is just changing between the stages. And it uses these transition between these stages, which tell what it must do, considering the intergreen time and minimum green time in calculation, in consideration. What I mean by this is I will show, I go up here and then I say, okay, it's okay that stage 1 changes from stage 2. Stage 1 can also change from stage 1 to stage 3. I provide all the possibilities. This is a very flexible stage transition, so it can go from 1 to 2, 1 to 3, 3 to 2, 3 to 1, and so on, based on the demand. Once I have provided this, I can go to stage transition. Here, it's simple calculation. You have to just click on regenerate. So I have to just automatically create my stage transition by clicking here. And when you click here, it says, I want to, of course, take my intergreen time into consideration. So when you are changing from one stage to another stage, this time in between will already have considered the minimum green time, the intergreen time, and minimum red time. So it means that if you suddenly change from 2 to 3, and there is already a demand to change to 1, the transition has already taken care of all the safety parameters. So this is the basic idea of traffic actuated controls. I will not do OK, and I will just do cancel, because if I do OK, these stages transitions are created. So since I provided in stages the possible combination that's possible to change from 1 to 2, 1 to 3, all these possible transitions are created, as you can see, considering the minimum green time. Once I have created my stage transition, I go into the signal timing plan module. And here I do calculate signal timing plan. This time, since I have a flow, we gave some flow. I say I don't want to include minimum green times. I want to include my flow for morning and a cycle time of, let's say, 90 seconds. That's fine. And say next. We have the intergreen time and something called the offset, which I've skipped for now. I will show you. What does it mean? I don't include it for now. And we take our intergreen times into calculation. It asks which evaluation method you want to use. These are some German evaluation methods. And I select this and I go on next. And it creates a signal timing plan for us. It says if I want to overwrite a signal timing plan, I don't want to. I just use it as diagram 11 and I say done. This is what Lisa has created for us in a single click. We see the level of services. Here we can change it as we want by these are the icons which you use to increase or decrease your green time. As you see, I click here. It's gone to A, of course. And if I click more here, I get this red line, which means that I have intergreen time violation between V1 and V3L. And also here you see that this has turned red. So I go back here and make it to here. And this blue line, what you see here, I hope you can see it. This blue line, what you see, it means that Lisa, it's called reserve time. Lisa is telling me that I can extend my green time until here without getting any intergreen time conflict. But if I do more, I get a conflict. I have the options to also, this was an automatic creation of signal timing plan. You can also create a signal timing plan manually. If I want to create it manually with a cycle time of 90, and it will ask which flow you want to create. I said, okay, this is empty now. Of course, nobody does it, I hope, but this is just to see the functionalities of Lisa. You can provide a time here, and then it takes the minimum green time into consideration and automatically calculates the termination of green time. You can either use this if you don't want to give in the value here, and you just click here. So it calculates automatically, creates this green time for us. Similarly, if you click here on this icon, you can extend the entire cycle time, just not the green time. If you do this, a click and drag, it increases. You change it here. Also, you can give on the right side, you have cycle time. Give it the cycle time here, 90 seconds. By clicking on arrow and by clicking on this, you can increase the green time, as you see here. This is the manual version. I delete it and go back to the automatic one. Here you see when does the green time start, when does it end, and what is the green time. I can also check if I want to see how Lisa has calculated these values for us. I can always click here, evaluation. Lisa opens this for us. And now if I click on the right side on the log, it shows us all the step how the level of service was calculated for each of the lanes. What we have done, something which is important, is offset, which I missed. So offset is that you provide rules to a signal timing plans, that you say that for the non-conflicting signal groups, you can provide some rule that these particular signal groups should start at the same time or should end at the same time, or some particular signal groups should end before a certain signal group. What I mean by this is I go here to offset. So here you see that these you can only provide it for the non-conflicting signal groups. So what I have given here is that V2 and V4 equal to 0. This means that the signal group V2 and V4, they should start at the same time. Okay, this is a beginning of green. So it means it should start at the same time. If I say that is equal, greater than equal to 0, it means that P2 should start before V3. This is basically done that the pedestrians and vehicles are getting green at the same time. So the pedestrians start walking before, so the vehicle sees that there is, it's just a safety thing. And similarly, the flashing light starts 1 second before the vehicle starts. So it already knows that there is a warning sign. So these are certain rules which you can provide in Lisa. This could vary from this. This is always very interesting when I'm giving 2 days training to know about different cities. What are the rules which each country have? And similarly, for the end of green, this is where you say that a pedestrian, the flashing light, it goes 12 seconds after the pedestrians has stopped. Because imagine a pedestrian started crossing the intersection and the light is already red, but he will take some time to cross the entire intersection. So the flashing should keep on going for the vehicle turning at the same time. So these are more safety things. These value, of course, depends on the geometry, how big the lane is, and so on. And these values are then used in our signal timing plan. Here, where you see on the right-hand side, where you have the properties, I have, because the intergreen time is something which you cannot change. This is the basic security needed for a signal timing plan. But I have here a start offset and end offset. I open them side by side. If I have here 0 for V2 and V4, and this is the start offset, and this is the end offset. If I have start offset and I check, this was V2 and V4 0. So it has V2 and V4 0. So 56, 56. If I try to change it, it will give me an error. It's blue. It means that I have violated some offset conditions. I can try to open this here. I click double clicking on this arrow before, and you see offset conditions violated. It says that you should have done this, and yeah. And if I create one, let me create one more signal timing plan with the offset conditions included. I say next, diagram 11, done. And here you see that no offset condition has been violated because it follows. We can check V2 and V4 starting at the same time is equal to 0. And I can check maybe one more, 12 here, that FL2 should end 12 seconds after P2. So here in this case, FL2 is ending at 41. and this was P2. P2 should end at 29. So this is the rule. And if I just try to change it, for example, make it, I don't know, 42, I see the end of offset has been offended. Of course, this is not, I mean, you can define it as an error, but this is just a warning. That's why it's blue. That's how you define a signal timing plan. You create a signal timing plan, and then you can further create an activation plan and deactivation plan, which means when the controller is off and you turn it on, it should not switch directly to some signal timing plan, but it goes to an activation plan before, and then it switches to a signal timing plan. We just have to click on this, calculate, create STP, and it creates an activation plan for us. And this is how it will look like. I will show you after in the test site how when you turn on the controller, how the traffic light runs. It switches into an activation plan. This keeps on, and then where you have defined on the bottom for signal time plan 1 or 2. Yeah, we have defined these activation points and deactivation points, which are used to tell at what point should the activation plan jumps into a signal timing plan. Your controller will turn on, it will jump into an activation plan. And then since you have defined this activation plan for signal timing plan 2, and in signal timing plan 2, you have defined the time as 15 seconds, this activation plan will jump into the signal timing plan 2 at 15 seconds. And similarly, once you have turned off the controller, the signal timing plan 2 will run for the deactivation plan. The signal timing plan, which has been running, will run up to 15th second and then run into the deactivation plan, go for 8 seconds, and then the controller will switch off. We will see this more clearly in the test site, but yeah, there are more ways to create a signal timing plan other than manual and automatic. You can also create it using stage transition, what we just saw before. And for that, you just click on here. I click on plus and STP, and you try to choose what all stage transition you want in your signal timing plan to create it. I say I want from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and 3 to 1 with a cycle time of, I don't know, again, 90, and I do OK. And here you see I don't have to move each of the signal group, but I can just simply move the entire transition for the entire stage. This is basically also for traffic actuated. And once I'm fine with my signal timing plan, I can convert this into a signal timing plan. And then this has been created, this has been converted into an STP. All right, then I will also quickly show time switch coordination and test site. Once you have defined your signal timing plans, you can tell the controller at what particular time which signal time plan should be turned on and off. So how you do it? So here you create a new day plan, and I say I can edit it and call it, let's say for click along. I'm making this plan. I do OK, and now I do plus, plus, plus. I want that at 5 o'clock in the morning, my controller will switch on. Then it will switch on to signal timing plan 1. Then after, I don't know, at 7 o'clock, the peak hour begins, and it will switch to signal timing plan 2, which is for peak hour morning. Then the peak hour goes until 10 o'clock, and then after 10 o'clock, it switches to the day plan, which is normally 7. Then at 4 o'clock in the evening, there is again peak hour of evening, which is 3. And then again, the peak hour goes till 8 o'clock, and then it switches to 1 again, and then it goes to all off after 1 o'clock. So this is how you define a day plan, the time switch. And of course, this you could have a different plan for a weekday, and you have a different plan for weekend. In weekend, I can define there's not so much of peak hours. I just need 3 plans, and I can make 1, 2, 3. So I can click here and I just say switch to, sorry, switch on 1, then you switch to all the way to 7, and then you switch off. You switch to 3, 1 again, something like this, just a random example. And that's how you create your day plans. And once you have created your day plans, you have your week plan similarly, you do plus, and then you create various type of week plans, and you say that on from Monday to Friday you want your weekday plan, and on Saturday and Sunday you want your weekend. Also, it might happen that you have an off on Wednesday and you don't want a weekend plan. In that case, what you can do is you have special days and you can check holidays here, and then I can choose for my country, I don't know, let's say for Germany, in Berlin, I have a Women's Day, which is not anywhere in Germany, but only in Berlin. So I click on 8th of March here, which is the Women's Day, and I do insert. And then here I say that International Women's Day has a plan of weekend. So like this, we can also assign special days, a different plan for different cities. And you can also assign special periods similarly. You have a summer plan where you have vacations, or you have a World Cup going for 1 month or something. So that's how you can also define special periods. In this case, I don't save it. This is the time switch. And now we have created a signal timing plan, which is ready to be given to a controller. But I go next to coordination quickly, just to see how coordination in Lisa looks like. And now we are entering to Lisa M. I mean, I already show you stages and stage transition, which is part of Lisa Excel, since it's used for traffic actuated control, but it was, yeah, also important for signal timing plan module. I can create coordination by going back to project management, clicking on plus here, and I say I want a new coordination variant. I can name it again, click along. I mean, it could be name of your city, whatever, and example 1. Here I can choose my intersections, which I want to have in my coordination. I choose this one, this one, here, here. Okay. That's how you create a coordination variant. So once I have these, and I can click on save, and then I have to click again here. I have all the intersections selected because it's a coordination. And now what you will see here, that the coordination icon is green. Before it was not highlighted. And once I click on the coordination, this window is open. So this is like a basic structure of coordination variant. Here you will see for all the intersections in the direction of travel, what is the main signal group, and in the opposite direction, what is the main signal group. You will have to define the distances between the intersections. I'm just giving some example for now. Let's say I give 100 so we can see properly. Okay. Okay. Of course, you will have to check this distance from Google Map or wherever you can get the distance from. This is how a basic skeleton of coordination will look like. I click here on the intersection diagram, and instead of one diagram, I will see all the diagrams which I have selected in coordination. This also helps you to check, let's assume this is our main direction in the morning, and you can see which is the signal group which you have to coordinate. It's V3, V2, 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 V2. Yeah. If I've checked it, I can go back to this basic structure, and I can check that here it was maybe, I don't know, what was it? In the basic one here, it was V3. So I can go here in basic structure and change it to V3. Okay. This is a skeleton, and you see that this is the distance between the intersections here on the x-axis, and on the y-axis you have the signal timing plan. So you have the cycle time for each signal timing plan. I go to properties and I want for my each intersection, the first basic rule is that all the intersections should have a signal timing plan with a same cycle time or at least a multiple of cycle time. So if I choose 53, only one intersection has signal timing plan with cycle time 63. I will choose 75 and all of them has a signal timing plan 2, which has a cycle time of 75. So when I go back here, this is how it looks like. You can see here 26 to 72 is the start and end of green time. This flow, what you see is that a vehicle enters at 26 seconds and it goes at the speed which have been defined in the settings. It reaches this particular intersection at this particular second. So the basic idea of coordination is that you have to optimize this green wave. I mean, you have to optimize the waiting time, total delay, or even fuel consumption. There are various possibilities what you can optimize in this green wave. We can go a bit further in this, but I will actually open something which has been created since we don't have much time. I have created a Lisa down direction west. So click along and I go here to the coordination. So this is, for example, you have flow of vehicles from one intersection to the last one. And you can, of course, if you want, what I will do is I want to see a green band. I have to go in settings and I have to go to display the green band. The green band is if a vehicle start here, the platoon of vehicles which start here and can go to the end without stopping. We don't see any green band here because imagine if a vehicle coming here, it gets green here, it gets green here, but then here it has to stop. So there is no green band. I can just do edit intersection. I can manually move the signal timing plan itself. You see, I try to move the signal timing plan. And since now there is overlapping of this green time, I see some small green band coming in here. I can try to make it even more bigger, but there is hardly a chance that I, by doing manually, will reach to a point which is optimized, right? Because you have here 70 options to move this particular green time. Similarly, you have 70 options here, 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 here. So you have 70 into 70 into 70, 75 times options to move your green time manually to find an optimized solution, which is of course impossible. So that's why we have an algorithm in Lisa which does it for us automatically. So what I do, I simply click on here and I say analytical optimization. It will ask into flow. Next. It asks for which flow you want to optimize it. And now we have some criteria for which we can optimize it. Either you can optimize it for the performance index, for the coordination criteria, or for waiting time. Performance index is it's a key variable. Is the key variable of performance index is increase fuel consumption. So the lower this value is, the better the coordination evaluation is. And for coordination criteria, it describes the average proportion of traffic lights that vehicles pass without stopping in this coordinated flow. I will put it in a simpler way. It is just the ratio of passages without stopping to the number of possible stops. Let's say I want to optimize the performance index and just for direction of travel. Normally, we say we have to give 100 iterations, optimization steps. I keep it even less, 20 for this click along. And it says how much is the window of optimization. Of course, the entire cycle time. Okay, it's happening. So basically, the step was that I have to provide a flow I have to check what I have to optimize, and then I have to tell the direction which I have to optimize, and then it kinds of optimizes it for us. And once I click, this is the optimized coordination green wave for us. And as you see here on the right side, you have the value for the level of service for PI, depending on whatever I optimize. I think I optimized the PI. It has been decreased total to 12.6, just to see what was the original. It was LOS was DCD, and this is what happens after I optimized. I mean, if you have, once you are doing this optimization, you can choose whatever you want to optimize, and you can see the difference here. These platoons, I think this is something you can, I will remove it for now. Okay. Yeah, this is the major difference which you can see by optimizing. There is many more things which you can do in coordination. I mean, there is a separate training for coordination, but this is just a very, very quick overview of how you can do in coordination, how you can create a coordination, and how you can do optimization here.
Thanks a lot for joining us today. And as always, we are at your service if you have further questions. Please contact us at service@schlotauer.de if you have any technical questions, or if you want a quote, an offer, have any sales-related questions, then please contact us at lisa@schlotauer.de. Thanks and have a nice day.